If Honda really brings back the small commuter properly in 2026, the most interesting thing about the Honda CB100 2026 won't be the engine. It'll be the attitude. That might sound strange for a 100cc bike, but hear me out. I've ridden enough small displacement Hondas to know that power numbers don't tell the story. What surprised me over the years is how these bikes feel more complete than they need to be. Even when they're basic, they rarely feel cheap. And that's where I think the CB100 2026 could quietly win. When I compare it to older small Hondas like the classic Honda CB100 and even commuter-focused machines like the Honda CD100, I notice something. Honda never treated the 100cc segment as disposable. They treated it as foundational. Most people miss this. They assume 100cc bikes are just stepping stones, starter bikes, budget bikes. But in many markets, this category is the backbone. It's daily transport, it's reliability, it's someone's first taste of freedom. If Honda approaches the CB100 2026 with that mindset, this bike won't need crazy specs. It will need refinement. And refinement in this class is rare. I compared what modern 100 to 110cc commuters offer today. Many focus on fuel economy numbers and flashy graphics. But when I look closely, I notice weak suspension tuning, vague brakes, and vibrations that show up the moment you cross 60 kilometers per hour. What I'm curious about is whether Honda will tune the CB100 2026 for smoothness over spec sheet bragging rights. Because here's the truth. In a 100cc bike, smoothness feels like luxury. If Honda gives it a counterbalanced engine, tight gearbox shifts, and clean throttle response, it will feel premium even if it only makes 8 or 9 horsepower. And honestly, in this segment, that's enough. Another thing I've been thinking about is weight. Most small commuters today are creeping up in weight because of emissions equipment and added features. But a 100cc bike should feel light, almost playful. If Honda keeps it under control, say around 100 to 105 kilograms, the CB100 2026 could feel incredibly nimble in city traffic, and that's where these bikes live. I've always believed that the real test of a commuter bike isn't highway speed. It's how it behaves in stop-and-go traffic, tight U-turns, and broken roads. Which brings me to suspension. This is where manufacturers usually cut corners. Basic telescopic forks and twin shocks are fine, but tuning matters. I've ridden bikes where the hardware looked identical on paper, yet one felt planted and the other felt like a shopping cart. If Honda invests time in proper damping and rebound control, even a simple setup could feel composed, and that would surprise a lot of people. Now, let's talk design. Here's where things could get interesting. Honda could go two ways. They could modernize it aggressively with sharp panels and bold graphics, or they could lean into a classic, simple CB silhouette, round headlamp, clean tank lines, minimal fuss. Personally, I'd love a subtle retro touch. Not full nostalgia, but something that nods to the original CB DNA. A small round LED headlamp, a sculpted but simple tank, clean side panels without too many stickers. Because most people underestimate how much design affects perceived quality. When a small bike looks mature, riders treat it differently. It doesn't feel like a compromise. It feels intentional. One misconception I keep hearing is that 100cc bikes can't be fun. I disagree. Fun isn't always about speed. It's about engagement. A light bike with a slick gearbox and predictable handling can be more enjoyable in the city than a heavy 400cc machine stuck in traffic. I've noticed that on smaller bikes, you use more throttle, you shift more, you plan momentum. It makes you more involved, and that involvement creates connection. If the CB100 2026 delivers that connected feel, it won't matter that it's not fast. Now, let's be realistic. This bike will likely focus heavily on fuel efficiency, and honestly, it should. But here's the practical takeaway most buyers ignore. Fuel efficiency is meaningless if the engine feels stressed all the time. I'd rather get slightly lower mileage with a relaxed engine than incredible mileage from a motor that sounds like it's begging for mercy at 70 kilometers per hour. So I hope Honda tunes it for real-world usability, not just lab numbers. Brakes are another overlooked area. In this segment, drum brakes are common, and for daily commuting, they're fine. But even a single front disc option would instantly elevate the CB100 2026. Not because riders will be racing, but because braking feel builds confidence, and confidence builds loyalty. And Honda understands loyalty better than most brands. When I look at models like the Honda Shine 100, I see how Honda positions small bikes as long-term companions, not temporary solutions. That mindset matters. If the CB100 2026 follows that philosophy, it could quietly become one of those bikes people keep for years without complaining. Let's also talk about comfort. Small bikes sometimes get thin seats and cramped ergonomics. That's a mistake. Even on a 15-minute commute, comfort matters. A slightly wider seat, neutral handlebar position, and relaxed foot peg placement can transform the experience. I've noticed that when a bike doesn't fatigue you, you stop thinking about it. And when you stop thinking about it, that's when you know it's good. That's the magic zone. Here's another small but important detail: build quality. Panel gaps, switchgear feel, paint finish. These are subtle, but riders notice, especially in 2026 when expectations are higher than ever. If Honda nails these basics, the CB100 won't just compete on price, it'll compete on trust. And trust is powerful in this segment. Some people might ask, why even care about a 100cc bike in 2026? Because not everyone needs 50 horsepower. Not everyone wants tech screens and ride modes. Sometimes what riders want is simple, reliable, efficient transport that doesn't feel boring. That's harder to build than it sounds. If Honda understands that simplicity is a feature, not a limitation, then the CB100 2026 could be more than just another commuter. It could be a reminder that small bikes still matter. And honestly, if Honda builds it with care instead of just chasing numbers, I'd respect it far more than another overcomplicated machine trying too hard to impress.